Hi, I'm Jeff Fuller. I am providing here a presentation, a summary of a case we worked as for the community with members of the community, including a retired senior Federal Bureau of Investigation agent and a current active and senior Secret Service agent. And then we were advised and supported by a couple other very experienced former uh, military and civilian Department of Defense officials. In any case, the point of this is to provide some information that might be useful to students who are interested in these topics and uh, parents and community leaders. And of course, the original intent was to be of use to the school division in Prince William County and the citizens groups that had discussed concerns about active shooter incidents. This came about after the Uvalde attack, which demonstrated that everything could go wrong that did go wrong. And so moms, parents were concerned about what about Prince William County? Would we? How would we do? Well, I'm a retired Army Special Forces officer. I have a business called Security Risk Inc. And in that outfit, we provided support and services to the U.S. government at DHS, at the Coast Guard, and in for a number of other endeavors. The model that we used here is called probability risk assessment. Not going to go into detail on that. It is one of a number of methods that you can use to analyze risk and to manage risk. So this is a snapshot, and I hope it's useful. Uh, by the way, I also advise Capital Technology University's counterterrorism program and intelligence and security studies. So we're in a position to keep up with this field. So these are the things we considered: threat, consequence, vulnerability. Those taken together resulted in a risk calculation. We then looked at alternatives to fix the vulnerabilities that were identified, and that's a part of the risk management process. It's another analysis process using the same factors, but now considering cost and effectiveness of the fix. And then we compare the results and present those to um, the people that we're serving, in this case, our customers, so to speak. This is essentially a fairly simple risk model. It's probabilistic because we estimate the likelihood of threat, the attack occurring, and the likelihood of the attack failing, meaning the vulnerability. So those things taken together give you the basic risk profile. Then you examine, again, the solutions that you come up with. You run those in the same model to find out how it changes the calculation of consequences based on changes in vulnerability. And then when you do the risk management, you basically look at the difference in the from the base case of the cost, and then divide that cost by the risk changed in the risk equation. Now, I should note that in this case, we did all of this analysis without any helpful communication from the school division security professionals or the police department. I think they would have liked to have helped on a personal and professional level, but the school division didn't want any external cooperation in this case. But that's okay. We were able to determine by examination, by interviewing teachers and interviewing um, uh, people that are familiar with the schools, parents, and so forth, and uh, and we were able to also interview a few teachers and so forth. So, and we obviously could go look at the schools, uh, drive around, go inside and visit, and so forth. So we were able to get a pretty good impression of the uh, operations, the base operations of the schools in terms of security. And we haven't gotten any pushback from anybody that we have briefed on our basic uh, estimate of what the current situation is. Now it's a professional judgment of our team how much the fix that we propose would cost and how much it would affect or mitigate the risk. So that's just part of the model. You just have to apply expert judgment to that, and that's how we did it. So it should be said here that this is totally independent and without any input from the school division. Just to be clear, I'd like to point out that this is a simple introduction to a more complex briefing. You can see just to get a sense of the scope and detail of a more detailed briefing. So I don't want to leave you with the impression that this is uh, what I'm presenting here is anything more than an overview. We the standard model that at least that I have used in years of work for Department of Homeland Security and the Coast Guard, for example, involves analysis of the security system versus the attacker at some level, and a number of other factors. But to keep it simple, we applied the most basic elements to to the response side, considering those aspects of the response shown in blue here. And we added the notion of a prevention model, which considered the elements that you see there in blue under prevention. And I'm going to show you briefly in a top level form how that breaks out. So we took that general concept that I described for the analysis. We applied the current prevention capability in terms of its capability to basically prevent the attacker from attacking by intervening effectively, identifying them and intervening effectively. And then we assess the current security posture's capability of responding effectively to that threat and defeating it. In this case, the results in the most simple form are shown here. Without anything except a call to 911, we calculated or estimated that the worst case scenario would be 28 children and staff killed, or the equivalent of being killed. We assessed that the current capability for that scenario was about 19 being killed, some improvement, obviously, and that if our reasonable best case were applied, that we would expect the death toll to be down to about 5. We noted that based on a study between the 2010 school year and the 2020 school year, that a number of factors that were looked at have gone down, as illustrated here. However, a number have gone up. And a particular note, and this applies to one of the problems school divisions face, is that these here apply to disorder in the classroom, fear of the teachers and staff uh, of this basically out of control school environment in terms of security. And we note that one of the key rationales for having security professional in the schools is to manage this, not active shooters. This can generally be managed without an armed response. School shooters cannot be. So that's just part of the context of the environment that this was being considered in. So here's the analysis framework. We had 4 attack scenarios, we had 3 school types, and we applied 3 different response capabilities. This is what the analysis model looks like from 1/1,000 foot. And we're happy to provide this, by the way, to anybody that's interested. Now, let me turn. So this is the model we used for the prevention side of the equation. As you can see, there's 4 components, and I won't speak to those in any detail, but I think they're straightforward. We think that probably the most important part of this equation is a robust threat assessment team that integrates, keeps track of things, integrates and responds to information about a student at risk, and so forth. The response model is more in keeping with what I've used in analysis of terrorist threats and active shooter threats. We used a 28 death maximum based on the Columbine shooting as our worst case. We basically we consider this sort of this is not this is an illustration, not an analysis of detailed data, but what we expect is that the shooter casualty rate will follow a curve similar to this. The components of the assessment are basically detect, decide, engage, and defeat again, but what we're looking for each of those is a different aspect having to do with response. The most important part of that equation is getting a responder to the scene to engage the shooter in a timely manner, as this illustration on the left shows. Now, I'm going to just quickly illustrate these 2 components using the Columbine attack against the current capability of our school division. As you can see, the prevent capability is significantly different from high schools and elementary schools. I'm not going to get into the why of that. I'm just trying to illustrate how the model basically works. With regard to response and prevention, this shows the same judgments, now adding in the response equation and then showing the 2 factors being taken together. So significant different capability in high schools and elementary schools in terms of response. Why? Because there's armed security professionals in the high schools and none in the elementary schools. So we did assess, interestingly, that the SROs would have a significant improvement in both prevention and response in elementary schools because they're there looking for those kind of problems and will be able to, if there's a problem coming from a child, they're more likely to detect it. This compares the results from high school versus elementary school for the worst case scenario, which was the Columbine scenario. And you can see by the different color codes how the results broke out for each of those. And it's really quite different. In the case of the elementary schools, largely because there's no armed security professional there to be involved in prevention and also response, the death toll we estimated to be 23, whereas the alternative, when we applied it, was 5 killed, or we would call it equivalent fatalities. So, and the other thing we note is that the psychological impact of killing that many children in an elementary school who can't fight, can't run, the killer's average age is 30 in these cases, so they're not coming from within the school. So it's just it's another aspect of this that citizens keep in mind when they're worried about this problem. So this basically concludes what I had to offer, and I think the question is the question was answered to the satisfaction of the community groups that asked the question. And I am personally pleased that we were able to see the ball moving significantly in terms of readiness of the school division. And while there's still problems, I think we can feel comforted in knowing that this analysis was persuasive to the citizens and to the school division personnel, the security people, as well as the uh, school board. So thanks. I hope that's helpful. My contact information is on the first slide. Well, you're welcome to give me a call or send me an email with questions or comments. Have a great day.